Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to use stamps from this magazine. It's the Creative Stamping Magazine, and if you're a newbie to stamping or you like getting craft magazines, this is definitely the one to get. This issue is the 100th issue, and there is so much inside this. There is great ideas, tips, tricks. There's links for you to find products, and there's just so much crammed into this magazine. Another thing I love about this magazine is the stamp set you get with it. It always comes with a large stamp set, and it's usually an A4 stamp set, if not extras. Because this is issue 100, we've got 2 stamp sets that have come with this, so well worth the money. So these are the 2 stamp sets that we got. I have cut them down into 4 stamp sets. I've put them on 300 GSM cardstock, and then I put them into wallets, and this is how I then will store and keep them in my craft room. So let's go ahead and work on our first card. So for this card I'm going to be using 2 of my nested dies. Now I have the larger one there and the second largest, and they were joined together, so I die cut out a little frame. I've taken the second largest die and I've die cut out a circle then on this piece of paper. You can use copy paper, you can use card, whatever you like yourself. And I have this piece which I'm going to call a mask, and then this other piece which I'm going to call a stencil. So both of these will come in very handy for doing a one-dimension card. Now you can see here I have my card base ready. This is a ready-made card base, so it's a little bit smaller than 6 by 6, but you can make one yourself by cutting a piece of card measuring 12 by 6 and then score it at 6, and that'll give you a 6 by 6 card base. So what we need to do next is take our stencil. Now you can leave your card closed or open. I like to work with mine open like this. But also be aware of what way you want your card to stand up. Now you can have it as a top folding card. I tend to find sometimes they can slip down and open up. So I generally like to do mine as a side opening card. But just be aware of what orientation your card base needs to be. Lovely. Then we're going to take our stencil, and we're going to put something behind this that is going to attach it onto our card base. Now you could use some washi tape and put some washi tape on that around the sides of it, and that will hold it in place. You can use a fixative spray. There is stencil sprays and there are low tack spray, but I'm going to use a tape runner. My mask I'm going to put on my card in the place that I want my image to be. So I'm going to make sure that my borders are kind of the same in the whole lot. Then I'm going to put my hand through the stencil, holding the mask down, and I'm going to sit this on top, and it'll fit in place like a jigsaw puzzle piece. That way that I know that when I remove the mask piece, the opening here that I'm going to do my ink blending is going to be exactly where I want it on my card, and that makes it really handy doing it that way. So once I'm happy with that, then we can start our ink blending. But what I'm going to do first is take my tape runner that I'm going to be using on my stencil, and I'm going to put some behind it. So I just thought that would be a handy tip there for you, keeping the mask and using that and helping you to center where your stencil is going to sit on your card. So the tape runner that I'm using is this one. It's the Stick It tape runner, and this is a removable or repositionable tape that is inside this. And I find this works just as well as using a fixative spray or a stencil spray, whatever you want to call it, on the back. So what I will do is I will take the tape runner and I will put it around the outside and around where my opening is, because I want to make sure that when this sits down on my card base, that the tape that I've used is going to stick the edge of the die cut opening down. I don't want it to lift while I'm using my blending brushes. So I'll make sure and go nicely around the circumference or the edge there of our die cut opening. And then once I have that all done, I'll then go around the outside edges just to make sure it sticks down nicely. So you can put as much or as little on as you want. I find with these that depending on how thick my card or paper is, that I will get a couple of uses from this. So I'm really pleased with that. The cardstock I'm using is about 180 GSM. So it's heavier than computer paper, but not as heavy as a card base. This here is an adhesive eraser, and any of the little tacky bits left behind on your card base, this little magic eraser here will lift them all off, and it's really handy to have in your craft stash. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down my mask on my card base. I want to decide where I want it. Then I'm going to put my hand through the opening on my stencil, holding the mask in place, and then sit my stencil down on top like fitting a jigsaw puzzle in place. I'll add a bit of pressure then around the stencil area, and I can see there it doesn't quite cover the top of my card base, so I'll need to be careful when I'm inking this. I don't want to get any on my card base. But I'll add a little bit of pressure there now, and you can see there it'll peel off no problem, but it stays in place. And I love this idea. I love that this will work for me, and these tape runners, they're not too expensive to buy, and I'll leave links to everything that I can down below. Like I said, I have my little gold frame here. I may put that around the outside of our bauble that we're going to do, and I may not, but I have them there just in case. And we will make 3 cards using this technique, this round one and then 2 oval ones. Okay, so we don't need the mask now. All we need to do is bring in our inks. And the 2 that I'm using here are Distress Oxide inks, and one is Lucky Clover, the other is Cracked Pistachio, the lighter being the Cracked Pistachio. And I'm going to use those. Oh, it went flying. I don't know what way I took that off there, but it flew at me. I'm going to use those with my blending brushes, but you can use blending sponges or whatever you have in your stash. So I'll use the lighter one first. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to say, Simone, that's very patchy. God, that's not very good now. But listen, it's going to look great by the time we're done. I'm putting the lighter one more into the middle, and then the darker one I've gone around the edge. I've gone back with the lighter brush then just to blend the 2 together. And when we peel off our stencil, it's going to look fabulous. Now I'm going to use some of the trees and one of the sentiments, and I'm going to use my Versafine Onyx black ink to do my stamping. When stamps are made, these are a silicone type of stamp. There is a residue left on the back of the stamp, so always make sure to give them a little clean with a damp cloth or even the inside of your hand. Some people just rub the stamp. But you will find when you're stamping down these images, where our stencil meets our card base, there is a little lip, so you mightn't get full coverage with your ink, but I'll use a micron pen for anything, or a black fine liner pen to fill in what doesn't stamp. Now you can see through your stamp here, some of the ink didn't go down, so I won't go back in and stamp that. What I've done is I've just set it back on the card base, but it missed a bit and it wasn't coming off the stamp, but I wasn't too bothered because I'm going to put more in front of that, and I'm going to do a technique called double stamping. And what that is you take your stamp, you stamp it down, then there's a residue left on your stamp, so what we'll do is we'll stamp it the second time. So I'm just looking to see what else I want to put on here, and I'm going to put some of the smaller trees. So you can see there I'm stamping off and then stamping the second stamp down in our opening of our bauble. So it gives an image of trees in the foreground as well as the background. So I love this idea. I think it looks really great. The next thing we want to do is stamp our sentiment, and I have a Wishing You a Magical Christmas. This came in the stamp set. I've stamped it up a little bit high here. I think I could have stamped down a little bit more between the trees, but it looks grand. There's no problem. Now, the next thing we need to do with this is make it look like a Christmas bauble. So you can take a fine liner and draw a line from the top middle of your bauble with a pen, or you can use some peel-offs. These are peel-offs from Love from Lizzie, and I love these. They're great for embellishing a card. And I keep all the little bits, and I've used that to imitate my string. I've stuck down a bow on the front, and I was showing you there how the frame might look with it, but I've decided I'm not going to use that. I'm doing some stamping inside again with the sentiment, and that one is Enjoy the Wonders of the Season, as well as stamping some of the trees, doing first and second stampings with that as well. And I love that. I think it's a lovely, basic, clean cut card. Now you could do this, you could put lots of layers and everything on this if you wanted, but I just felt that this would be a good one to showcase a nice clean looking bauble card using the stamps. And I'm delighted with that, and I love the inside as much as the outside. So let's move on to another one. Now, I had done a second card. You can see there because my stencil has got inks and stuff on it, but I forgot to hit record. Yeah, I know. I get distracted. The dogs are barking at me to go out. There was a washing the machine needing to be hung out. Lots of stuff going on. Anyway, I forgot to hit record, so I thought, no worries, we'll make another one. I was on a roll. So we got our stencil. We did it the same as the round one. I took a piece of cardstock. I die cut out an oval opening. I set my mask down. I then put my stencil on top, and then away we go with our ink blending. The colors I've used for this one is Abandoned Coral and Fired Brick, and I've used them on this one and the third card that you'll see, which is already done. I've taken the Santa and the reindeer. Now this one I have curved it a bit because I wanted it to fit within my opening, so I just manipulated it on my stamping block. I'm going to stamp down a couple of the trees, and then I'm going to stamp down the deer in the front there as well. And I love this imagery, and you can see there that the ink doesn't look really well blended. Now, you know, I blended it a good bit, but it still looks a bit patchy. But by the time you put your images on and your sentiment on and the ink dries, it looks lovely, guys. And what you can't really see here in the video, I'll have images at the end and you'll be able to have a look. But I'm delighted with how this one has turned out. It's very similar to the one I did before this, but I'm loving it. I absolutely love it. Now this one I have just done on some cardstock. There's the other one I did and didn't record, and they look very similar but different, even though I used the same products, did more or less the same thing. What I've done is I've die cut those out. This one I have put a gold frame around it. I've put it on foam tape, and I'm going to sit this down onto my 5x7 card base. Then again, I'll add a peel off to the top of this, and I've die cut out a little bow. I have the Papercraft Society box, number 18, and in that Society box came great dies, and two of them are bows, and I've used one of the bows from that, but you can use whatever you have in your stash, whether it's a stamp or a die or a piece of ribbon done into a bow like I did with my first card. So I'm loving this. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive behind my bow, and I like to use my hot glue to stick this down because it is raised up. It's on foam tape, so it'll help sit it on our bauble there, and it'll be raised up. And I love this. There's the bit of dimension from our bow as well as the foam tape from this, so it's raised up. And again, I stamped the inside similar to my first card. So now what we're going to do is I have one of these Zig liquid adhesives. It's a two-way glue, and this is squeeze and roll. It's very like a ballpoint pen, but inside it has a blue glue. And when you use this around different images on the front of the bauble, I've then got some of this fake snow, and it's got a kind of a holographic look. In the light, it just sparkles and shines. It's lovely. And I'm just putting some of that over where we put our ink. It'll stick then to that, and it'll look like snow in the background. Now this snow I got in a kit last year and still had some left, so I was using it, but I just love the look of this. It gives dimension without there being dimension on the card. But if you have a glitter or something like that, you can use that either. Now, when I have that done, I'm also going to take my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, or you can use a Wink of Stella or whatever kind of sparkle pen you have. And I'm going to go over the images once our glue has set and dried, and I will add a little bit of sparkle. But I love these little glue pens. They're very, very handy, especially if you have stuck down a die cut sentiment, you know, a word, and it's not sticking properly at one place or another. I find this handy to put a little nip of glue in and stick something down. So now I'm doing it on our framed bauble card and adding our little snow, our imitation snow or glitter to this card as well. And I have to say, with the light and everything, it looks so good. And you can see there I have my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I'm just going over some of the silhouette images with that. And I love these cards. Like I said, you could layer them. You could do an embossed background and have them set on that. You could do some mats and layers and have them set on that. But I really love the look of these cards. I think they're lovely and clean looking. And I have to say, my favorite one is the framed bauble. I love this one with the dimension behind it, even though it's without the frame. And I also love just the one-dimensional one, the green one. So here's some images of the cards we've made using the Creative Stamping issue 100 stamps. I hope you have enjoyed my tutorial. If you liked it, you might give it a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might consider clicking on the bell icon down below and becoming a subscriber. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And until next time, folks, thanks for watching. Take care and bye for now.